Hey guys, we made it to the final video discussing Project 880 and its differences to Avatar. Let's continue on from where we left off, as we have Josh about to enter the Pandoran rainforest for the first time. When Josh makes his first trip into the brush of Pandora, he has a very different reaction than Jake. Josh has never seen a forest, ever. He's actually kind of scared of it, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. Grace has to lead him through it all, showing him what he can and can't touch. In Project 880, the avatars can see into the ultraviolet spectrum, and the fauna looks very different to them. Josh's first trip into the wilds of Pandora does not end with him being separated from the others, and his first Na'vi is not the one he falls in love with. The avatars have a Na'vi guide, with a name I think is pronounced Ende, and this is the first Na'vi Soli gets to know. While his first trip isn't a disaster, there's a big problem. The human security detail decides to kill 3 dire horses while waiting for the research team. Ende is heartbroken, while Grace is furious. The human security is about to shoot Grace in the head when Josh throws him 20 feet, breaking his arm. This leads to an interesting philosophical point back at the base. No court would convict that guy of killing a cloned biological construct. It's another moment where the otherness of the avatars is highlighted, but while the philosophy is interesting, it all leads to a very concrete situation. Geese wants them out of Hell's Gate. He sends Grace and the rest of her Avatar team to a remote site to work. In Project 880, the remote site is there because the Flying Mountains screw up the psionic link with the Avatars, so they need a stronger signal closer to the mountains. Grace and the team head to the mountains to do some research, and it's here that Josh gets separated from the crew. While Avatar has Jake running from a couple of creatures, Project 880 is way more involved. First, Josh is snatched by a Medusa, which is a huge flying jellyfish, which takes him off the floating mountain on which the team is working. As Josh tries to get free, the team follows in their chopper, which gets crashed by a Leonopteryx. Then Josh ends up meeting the creatures that Jake meets in Avatar, but he has less of a chase with the Manticore, which is Project 880's version of the Thanator. The Manticore doesn't really care about Josh, it's just attacking the hammerhead Titanothere he was staring down. He kills it and starts eating. This lets Josh escape. And the Medusa gets killed largely because Banshees attack it, drawn by blood from Josh hacking at its tentacles. While all of this is happening, a Na'vi is watching Josh. As night falls and Pandora becomes bioluminescent, Josh finds himself surrounded by Viper Wolves. He doesn't make a torch though. He fights off the Viper Wolves best he can and is rescued by Zuleika, Project 880's Neytiri. Except in 880, she doesn't save Josh because a wood sprite fell on her arrow. She does it because she likes his bravery. Josh follows her into the forest. Much of this is the same as Avatar, except with many more creatures along the way. There are dozens more species in Project 880, some of which are truly weird. The Slinger throws its head at enemies. The head is actually its child. It's complicated and very bizarre. Then there are moon wraiths, odd insects that swarm together to look like a banshee. As an Avatar, Josh does eventually get covered in wood sprites, which gives Zuleika an excuse to bring him to the village. And Grace and the team are already in the village, which is a major departure from Avatar. The head of the clan, who is not called Atukan, but rather Matoa, decides to keep Josh around, and they want Zuleika to train him as a Na'vi, saying they want to see if it's even possible. There's a montage, much like the one in Avatar, but interestingly, the Project 880 montage has much more of Josh involved in Na'vi community life, to the point of having a scene where he is teaching Na'vi kids how to play baseball. After taming his Banshee, Josh engages in a massive hunt with the Na'vi, which is being filmed by De Los Santos, and in which he is incredible. Everybody's very impressed with Josh's feats, except Sute. It turns out very similar to the Stern Beast hunting scene we ended up with in the extended edition of Avatar. Back at the home tree, there's a big dance. We see that the Na'vi use the bioluminescent spots on their body to tell stories and express emotion. We also see that Grace is actually involved with Ende. It turns out that Grace is very close to the Na'vi, but Josh has gotten closer. It's explained that because she's a scientist, Grace can't quite throw herself into the spiritual world of the Na'vi, but Josh has come to them totally unfamiliar with nature and has learned to see it through their eyes. Much of what comes next in Project 880 is the same as in Avatar. Josh and Zuleika are woken up by the machinery crashing through the forest. In Project 880, Josh has never worked for Quaritch though, and Grace tries to stop the machines by calling Parrish, but he's so in the bag to the RDA that he can't help at all. Josh tells the Na'vi what the humans are up to. The Avatar program is then shut down. Geese explains that the real treasure on Pandora is the biodiversity and that the world holds more secrets. For example, how did it wipe out the cold? And how do the Na'vi communicate long distances? And if the RDA disturbs this one tribe, the other tribes will know. Selfridge doesn't care. He thinks the Avatar program is a failure, and they'll never get the Na'vi to work for them. Instead, he'll breed his own slave Na'vi race from the Avatar bodies. Everybody is being sent home. In the forest, we see that the humans set a huge chunk of the forest ablaze. Josh runs to the Avatar control room and delivers an impassioned speech, telling the other Avatar drivers that Pandora is Eden, not hell. That the Na'vi are being dealt a bad hand and only the Avatar drivers can really understand. They won't rise up though. The pay is too good. That night, a Na'vi raiding party attacks Hell's Gate and destroys machinery. That gives Quaritch the excuse he needs, and he launches an attack on Home Tree. In Avatar, they want Home Tree because of the unobtainium beneath it. In Project 880, it's all in the mountains. Quaritch wants to send a message to all the Na'vi on Pandora by wiping out this tribe. This is the shock and awe campaign he's talking about in Avatar, and the night raid on Hell's Gate was the terror he says must be met with terror. De Los Santos tells Josh the attack is happening. He and Grace hijack the Avatar control room, and De Los Santos keeps guard as they link in. Much of what happens here is the same as the movie, except with more mech suit action. Also, Zuleika is captured by the RDA. Eventually, the soldiers get into the control room, and there's a small fight, and Josh and Grace and De Los Santos are put in jail. It's Hegner who breaks them out though, and he's the one who stays behind as Josh's man on the inside. Parrish flips out that the RDA is burning the forest, but he's threatened into silence. Grace is mortally wounded, and she dies in the Well of Souls. Ende takes her Avatar body away to keep it alive. Josh has a plan to free Zuleika and the other captured Na'vi. He gets identity cards from Hegner, and he and a raiding party slip into Hell's Gate. They rescue the prisoners, but get caught on the way out. There's a huge chase battle as the Na'vi head back into the forest, and all of the local Na'vi have assembled. Josh gives them a speech, and when it's over, he gets congratulated by Grace. She's alive in her Avatar body. They did a soul transfer. She tells Josh that Pandora is alive. It's the Gaia theory, the planet as a bioorganism taken to the extreme, and with the illusion that maybe Earth was like this as well. But this is why the colds get cured and why the animals kept attacking. The humans are seen by Pandora as a virus. The planet is trying to expel them. Josh wants to know if the planet can be told the true extent of the threat, and they try to talk to Awa. The next morning, the humans attack, and in Project 880, the wildlife are in the fight from the start. Josh rides a Leonopteryx, but it's no big deal for the Na'vi since Sute is also riding one. De Los Santos flies around in a helicopter with Trudy Chacon, who up to this point hadn't factored in much, sending a live feedback to the base so that the human workers can see what the military is doing. Back at Hell's Gate, Norm Cheeseman, yeah, that was Norm's original name, and you thought Spellman was bad? Anyways, he has seen enough, links into his avatar, and takes up arms. So do the rest of the avatars. All of the many animals of Project 880 battle the humans. At Hell's Gate, Selfridge wants to blow up the Link Room, but Parrish finally gets some guts and puts a gun to Selfridge's head, telling him no way. During the battle, when Sute is vulnerable, Wainfleet scalps him, cutting off his braid, which is the Navi's link to Pandora. In 880, Wainfleet is also in an amp suit with a big knife, but Zuleika and her Manticore kill him. Quaritch gets in the amp suit as well and heads to the remote base where Josh's body is. He and Josh's avatar fight, but instead of killing him, Josh lets a pack of direwolves rip him apart. They've won. Josh and the avatars take control of the base. Some avatars will stay, all of the humans will go. Josh does a video with De Los Santos telling Earth that Pandora will not allow humans to step foot on it again, so don't bother coming back. In fact, if humans come again, Pandora will send them home with the horrible virus that will wipe out humanity. Josh tells Norm there really isn't such a virus. Just like in the movie, Project 880 ends with Josh transferring his consciousness into his avatar. The end. So there we have it. And in conclusion, I have to say that at the end of the day, I still prefer the extended edition cut of Avatar over Project 880. There's no way all of what was in here would make it into a roughly 3-hour movie. Just like with novels, there's just so much more room in a scriptment for more detail and information that you can't convey with the limited runtime of a movie. But I do like a lot of the extra explanations for elements that I didn't know before. Maybe some of the interesting scenarios and even characters that didn't make the final cut can be repurposed in a way in some of the next 4 sequels. Grace living in this version with the help of Awa, storing her consciousness even after death and putting it into the Avatar body, could be a hint of what we will see with Kiri. Of most interest to me will be revisiting Earth in a sequel, as has been confirmed by James Cameron himself, and how much of this extra information will be shown and given at that point. But it was great to go through this very early version and compare it to the Avatar movie we know and love. But of course, let me know what you all think in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a like, and if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on all my future Avatar videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.